Yes, I will. So for those attending the meeting, this Zoom video conference meeting today, we'll be using the raise hand feature in order to organize any public comments. During the general public comment period, and for each item on the regular agenda, I will ask those members of the public who wish to comment to click the raise hand feature to raise your hand to speak on that agenda item. For those joining by phone, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak. Please note that the members of the public must wait for my prompt in connection with each agenda item before using the raise hand function. For example, you cannot raise your hand at the beginning of the meeting for an agenda item that is later in the meeting. When you hear your name called, I will prompt you to unmute your account and inform you that you may begin speaking. You will be given 2 minutes for each agenda item, and you may only speak once per item. Okay?
Thank you. All right, so thank you for that. I guess item 1 here is our Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay. Let's see.
And we have, I believe we have a flag image we can all.
Yeah.
Which is very nice of you. Thank you for putting that up.
Okay. Okay, there we go. So, Chair, if you'd like to lead the pledge.
Sure. I
pledge allegiance
flag of the United
States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God,
one nation, under God,
and justice for all.
indivisible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item 2, a roll call.
Yes.
So my understanding is since our last commission meeting, Commissioner Bonilla from District 1 has submitted her resignation from the commission. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, great. Are you calling us, Lori?
Yes.
Okay.
So Vice Chair Marilees.
Here.
Commissioner Okello. Looks like he is not here yet. And Commissioner Manna. Okay. And Chair Green.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 3, public comment for persons wishing to address the commission on any parks-related matters not otherwise on this meeting agenda. And as Lori mentioned, to give public comment, please use the raise hand feature.
So if my understanding is if anybody's here to public comment regarding Flood Park, we need to wait until.
Meta's here.
Hi, Meta.
I've been at the meeting even before the Pledge of Allegiance, but
Oh, that's great.
I was not let into the meeting, so I could not participate. So I've just been let into the meeting, but I would like it recorded that I was here from.
Yeah, I have recorded it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so for Janeth, is that right? For public comment, if they're going to comment on an agenda item such as Flood Park, they have to wait until that agenda item is brought up.
That's correct.
So
just to be clear, if they're commenting on the waiving of vehicle entrance fees at Flood Park, then
yes.
That will be later in the agenda. If it is a matter unrelated to the waiving of vehicle entrance fees at Flood Park, then those would be welcomed now.
Thank you.
So I don't see any raised hands at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Moving on then to agenda item 4, action to set the agenda. Do I have a motion from the commission?
I move we set the agenda.
Okay, I think for this part, the way we do the the motions is we need to take a vote. I'll do a roll call for each commissioner to see what their vote is on the motion.
Do we need a second for the motion?
I would assume so.
Okay, great. So we had a motion from Neil. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, great. Thank you, Commissioner. So for a roll call vote then, let's have Lori call.
Okay, and it was Sam that seconded that, please? Is that right? Neil made the motion?
It was made at the,
Yes.
Oh, and Maida seconded? Okay.
Maida, Sam is,
Okay, so Commissioner Manna?
present here, yes.
Yes, what do you say to the motion? Do you vote yay or nay to set the agenda?
Yes,
Thank you.
yes to set the agenda.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Merrilees?
Yes.
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 Commissioner Green?
Aye.
Yes, and Commissioner Okello?
yes.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item 5, Parks Foundation Executive Director's Report. Nicholas, thank you.
So that'll actually be Michelle.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, I'm sorry,
Michelle
Parks
Beasley.
Foundation. Oh, you're not in
Yes,
charge of the
yes.
foundation and the department, are you? No. Michelle, hi, Michelle. Sorry.
Hi, Michelle.
Good afternoon. Michelle Beasley, Executive Director of the San Mateo County Parks Foundation. It's a pleasure to join you all via Zoom.
Thank you.
First thing I did, this is about 2 months old, but we did put out our spring 2020 newsletter, and the main article was about dogs in San Mateo County Parks, with commentary from the last Parks Commission meeting in February. This can be found on our website under news and events. And so you can just click and read the online version if you haven't seen it. I wanted to say it was a real joy, an honor to spend last Saturday morning at the Sawyer Camp Trail entrance to Crystal Springs Regional Trail with Scott Lombardi. The majority of people who came were very well prepared, but the few who were not, we were extremely happy to pass out our Parks Foundation bandanas designed by one of our board members. And I hope that I will be able to give each Parks Commissioner your own personal bandana the next time I hopefully will see you. And it was really nice to see how happy and grateful people were to be accessing their San Mateo County parks. So I hope to do that again. That was really great. And it was nice to see Scott's fan club. I think everyone is really enjoying connecting with their park rangers right now. So an update for everyone, the San Mateo County Parks Foundation will be managing the commemorative bench and table program going forward on behalf of the Parks Department. We are in the process of moving the landing page to our website, and we're going to be reviewing recent requests. So we are doing this in close coordination with County Parks, and so just wanted to let all of you know that. And then last but not least, I'm very happy to report that the Parks Foundation recently purchased a bunch of lumber for picnic tables and barbecue grills for campsites at Memorial Park as part of our ongoing efforts to make improvements to the visitor experience in advance of the park centennial in 2024. And all of this is to complement what the county is already doing in terms of massive infrastructure investments at Memorial Park. So we were very happy to be able to work very easily with the Parks Department on that, and we look forward to doing similar types of things in the future. So that's my update, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thanks.
But before the commissioners ask any questions, I just want to highlight one thing. Michelle is being overly modest when she mentioned towards the lumber at Memorial Park. Because of the county's COVID response, our procurement division is overloaded and unable to take care of any transactions that are unrelated to COVID. And we were running very low on supply at Memorial Park. And we called up Michelle one day and asked her if this is something the foundation would be willing to do so we can keep the momentum going. Michelle called a special meeting of her board and got the money appropriated extremely quickly, and then was able to get the transaction completed far quicker than we would have been able to do it on our own. So I think this project really highlights how the department and the foundation complement one another. But Michelle deserves so much credit for the speed at which she responded to making sure that we can continue these projects at Memorial. So I want to make sure that she gets the proper credit for what she did there.
Nicholas, thank you for doing that. And through the commission, I want to, the same sentiment, amazing. Michelle, thank you. You've really stepped up to the plate. Thank you for being out there last Saturday. The people was so positive. And I look forward to working with you again out there. I'll be there again this weekend. So let's give it a go. But thank you very much. Nice job.
I'll probably be out there this Saturday, Scott, so don't be surprised if I show up.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you.
Through the chair,
Please.
accolades to Michelle as well. I'm glad we have such a wonderful relationship with the foundation. I do have one question, however, but this is more to the director. Is there any reason the commemorative bench and table would program never got to the commission before the decision was made to pass it on to the foundation? I think it's a good idea. I would be supportive of it anyway. And so, you know, but this is, I think, the first time that, you know, the commission is knowing about it, but it's after the fact.
Yeah, through the chair. This was really something that had been kicked around just prior to COVID, and with everything going on, I think that decision was made, but I appreciate the interest in providing in having an opportunity to have items like that for consideration. So I apologize for that. Going forward, we'll definitely make sure matters like that come before the commission. So I do apologize for that.
And through the chair, if I could add something else, if the decision was made, I think it would be good to put it on the agenda and some actions that was taken by staff as a line item that says, you know, we took this because of da 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 da. You know, I don't think we'd be opposed to it, but I think it's more important that we hear it from you, the director. I would suggest that. I mean, I'm sure every individual commission member has an opinion on it, but I would definitely suggest that. Thank you. But it's wonderful that it's happening.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item from commission members?
No, I just wanted to say thank you. You know, because we didn't get to have our last meeting, there's less chance for us to have input, but thanks for moving ahead anyway on stuff that needs to get done. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Manna, anything you want to say on this item?
No, just to echo what Commissioner Meredith, you know, this is some tough times we're in, and whether it's, you know, the COVID and whether it's the unrest, you know, with the social justice and things like that, that we haven't been able to meet, that, you know, I'm happy with today that we're at least, you know, reaching out. Thanks to Lori, thanks to you, Heather, and thanks to everybody for putting this meeting together, that we're able to reach. And what Commissioner Meredith said, we're less and less able to, you know, see things in person live. You know, we missed a crucial meeting in April, but, you know, I'm glad. I'll take what we have right now.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Echoing thanks from everyone from me. And then my only question is, I thought I remembered back in the winter, you talked about the Parks Foundation itself, about to embark on some strategic planning. Has that work been initiated, completed, and when do you think we would be able to hear about that at commission?
I think what we had talked about is that it really makes sense for the Parks Department to update its strategic plan and for us to support them as much as possible. When we met, we were going into our board retreat. And so we were talking about kind of how we prioritize what we fund in terms of programs and projects that support the San Mateo County Parks. And then right after the retreat, we had COVID-19 and because needs do change. And I think that things that we had been prioritizing for the summer, like kite festivals and coyote nights, aren't happening. And so that means we will be focusing our efforts in other places. So, I mean, when you think about the retreat, a big focus for the San Mateo County Parks Foundation is really connecting people to the parks, and how we've been doing that is going to look a little bit differently over the next 12 to 24 months. And so we're going to be thinking a lot about how that looks in partnership with the Parks Department. But yeah, I think it makes sense for the Parks Department to think about its strategic vision and for the foundation to support that. But the foundation does have its own core goals. And so we're happy to talk a lot more about what, we discussed at our board retreat. Also remembering that things have changed in the last 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, and so far as you think it would be like timely and informative, if there's some point during the year where that seems like it would be material, that would be welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you everyone for your comments and questions. Moving to agenda item 6, department report. That includes the director's report, and that's you, Nicole. Do we have Nicholas?
Yeah, there we go. Sorry about that. So we took a different format for this meeting's director report and moved away from some of the day-to-day operations and wanted to just re-engage the commission on some of our more high-profile projects. And so,
sorry, Nicholas, I'll just pause you for a second. I don't know if anybody hears that like scratchy. If you're not speaking, if you could mute, that'd be great. Thank you. Sorry, continue.
Oh, no worries. So, I wanted to update the commission on some of our high-level or high-profile projects, and of those, I'm going to pull out just a couple here for you all today. And the first will be the off-leash dog pilot program, and that's something that the commission heard that at the February meeting, and subsequent to that, we had initiated the initial study so we can identify what the appropriate CEQA document would be for that pilot program. And right around the time that the consultants had completed the first draft of the initial study, we had been hit with COVID. And for that reason, that environmental document was slightly delayed, and we're currently working on that. Between that and a desire to make sure the board has the opportunity to prioritize its COVID response as well as how it's going to respond to its current financial situation, matters like the dog meeting the dog policy are going to be put on hold for a little bit. And so I suspect we will be bringing that to the board later this summer or early fall. But for the time being, the board is really needing to prioritize how we respond to COVID, how we're going to prepare for a possible second wave, as well as what is it that we're going to prioritize through our budget after we see what type of impact we're going to have. So that's not going to be done. That won't be presented to the board until later. And but what I do want to do is I will reconvene a dog work group meeting to refresh the work group members on where we left off. So what happened at the last work group meeting and what happened at the February commission meeting, and then we'll bring it to the board for consideration. So, and when we bring it to the board, it will mirror the recommendation that was adopted by the commission, which is to bring both recommendations, both the department's recommendation and the work group's recommendation to the board for consideration, and to explicitly call out what is the difference between the two recommendations. And so we will follow the direction given to us by the commission at that February meeting when we do present this to the board for consideration. Another issue or another matter that I wanted to bring up is the Memorial Park project. And you heard a little bit about it with Michelle. We selected Romtech Incorporated as the vendor to provide the restrooms and shower rooms, and they are currently completing the designs. Simultaneously, we're designing the wastewater collection system, and our Department of Public Works is overseeing the construction of the wastewater treatment plant. So we are putting over $10 million in investments in Memorial Park right now. And so the park will remain closed for those. We had scheduled to have that park closed for this year. And so with COVID going on, we got a little lucky with that on not having to determine how we're going to host camping with a global pandemic simultaneously occurring. So, but we are putting a lot of money into that park, and we're looking forward to seeing what the end product is. But I often use Memorial Park as a great example of what happens when you're not properly maintaining your facilities and your infrastructure, and you let that deferred maintenance go on for so long. And unfortunately, the department has just not had the resources, the financial resources in the past to maintain those facilities. And the department's done the best job anyone possibly could in doing it. But now that we have the money, we're really having to go in and start from scratch. And in the interest of time, the last one I will talk about is our 5-year interpretive plan, which had been presented to the commission at a prior meeting. One of the things you will hear a lot from me during the conversation about our strategic priorities is how we respond and how we provide services in a post-COVID world. And until we really understand how we're going to provide those services, and until we really understand what is the safest way of providing these type of interpretive programs, as well as engaging the public to understand what it is they want out of our parks, we're going to put that plan on hold. I think we need to better understand what COVID means for park systems before we can develop a strong 5-year interpretive plan that will lead us in the right direction. So we are going to continue that. We're just putting that on hold until we better understand what COVID means for us as a department. And as I said, with the interest of time, I just wanted to call those ones out, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about any of those items or anything else going on.
Thank you. I do have a question about the administrative and fiscal services part of the director's report about the budget. So I see the fiscal 21 budget is pending before the board for approval. And I wanted to understand if the department's budget assumes the continuation of the usage of corrections labor in our parks.
Yeah, that's a great question. That's not so much reflected in our department, but we do assume that we will assume that the California Department of Correction and Rehabilitation crews will be available to some degree to continue to assist us with projects. And it has been our intention to continue partnering with CAL FIRE to do those types of tasks.
Am I remembering right from when we talked about this before that it's about 17 people for about a month? Is that about the level of effort? This may be more to Scott.
Yeah, Scott, I don't know if you recall the specifics. I couldn't I couldn't tell you right now. And yeah, Scott, do you know? If not, Hannah may know as well.
We actually have it through the department wide. We probably have in the neighborhood of 15 to 20 projects that are pre-planned the year before. It all depends on what the fire situation is in California. We pre-plan these projects, we put them on the agenda, but if resources are pulled for fires within California, they are not attending those projects. So what I want to say is we pre-plan the year before, we get our FC32s in to have the projects done, but a lot of times, depending on the fire season in California, it'll depend on how much time they actually spend in our parks.
Do you know if we got all that we were expecting, what kind of labor level of effort we would be receiving?
We were actually short last year because it got pulled out. And we actually went back in the wintertime and asked for some crews to come in the wintertime for some vegetation removal next to residences. Particularly, we were in Wonderlic Park, where on Bear Gulch Road, we used a lot of their time because it was a paved surface. We were able to use the crews and chippers to clear a lot of that vegetation, which is the fire source next to residences.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you. Just not exactly my question. My question is looking for projects on the calendar ahead. Do you know about how many people we would be?
Commissioner Green, I can get back to you on that and get back to the commission on it.
So we only meet every 2 months, and this is before the board now. And I guess the reason for my questioning is that I am opposed to the use of corrections labor at little to no cost, far below a living wage. I know that it is constitutionally allowable, but I do not believe that it is right. And I do not believe that this is where the county of San Mateo should be saving its pennies. And so that's why I'm interested in the level of effort, because as I recall, it was something like 17 people, and it's not every month. And I remember looking this before, and it was in the tens of thousands of dollars about like how much, assuming a $15 an hour minimum wage, we would be, quote unquote, like that's the level. But I don't know if those numbers are right. So let's say, assuming tens of thousands of dollars, if we are able to absorb losses of revenue in excess of $700,000 in fiscal 20 just by holding positions vacant and reducing some services, I submit that we could probably go a little bit more and just eliminate this stain from our department. I don't think that it's right that we do this, and it's a decision to the board for the budget. So that's why I want to know kind of what we're talking about before we talk about if it's $1 million worth of work. That's a different calculation. I still think it's wrong, but I think that the board should be made aware that this is something that we're doing. It's not right just because it's allowed. And I would like what I would like to do is to write a letter to the board for consideration along with the budget. And so it would be helpful to know, and we can do this later, like at what meeting the board will be considering this item. And I'm happy to write that just from myself, or if other commissioners would like to, sign on, I'm happy to do that on behalf of all who agree. But I just want to make this right.
Yeah, if I may make a recommendation, if the interest is to have the entire commission weigh in on this and then have a letter or a document come from the commission as a whole to the board, then the best opportunity to do that would be for the September revisions, which is not before the board yet. And so that would still give us, so we can go in August. At the next meeting, we can have an item that that essentially it would be for the commission's consideration. And at that time, we can bring back to you how many crew members, how many days each crew is estimated to work, how many hours that is in total, and then what the financial application is for, or what the equivalent of the financial cost would be if that's to your liking.
Yeah, I would like to do that. That makes sense to me, and thank you. Sorry for the very specific questions. Thank you. Other commissioners, questions or comments on this item?
Through the chair, I do agree with you 100% on the issue, and I do agree with the director's proposition as to bringing it back so that we have a commission position on it. I do have one little question on the Memorial Park. Memorial Park, the campgrounds improvement project. Now that we're in a new normal, we don't know how COVID-19 is going to haunt us for. We don't know how long it's going to haunt us for. Is there any effort being made to redesign the campgrounds to reflect the new reality?
Yeah, through the chair, Commissioner, there's no effort at this time to redesign the campgrounds. What we will be doing is reevaluating how we program the campground. So what we mean by that is, are we going to allow families from different households to stay at the same campsite and in the same tents as one another or not? The campsites themselves are pretty well established within the natural environment out there, and we could end up doing more harm than good by having to reestablish all of those, given the natural landscape. But programming is where we have a lot of flexibility to determine how we allow people to use it. And so that is something that we will be evaluating. And over the next year, what we'll be doing is working with our partners at state parks and other county park departments throughout the Bay Area to understand how they've reestablished their camping in the post-COVID world, and what they've understood as best practices, as well as work with the health system.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
I had a
you.
question.
Thanks.
I've had some questions from constituents about reopening Devil's Slide Park. When is that going to reopen, and that the little parking lot there on each side? And Fitzgerald Marine Reserve Bluffs, that still has a closed sign on it. The reef is fenced off, of course, but is there a plan to open up the bluffs and get rid of the no parking sandwich signs that are out on the street?
Yeah. Commissioner Green, would you like me to answer that now or wait for the later item where we're discussing the reopening plan and all the phases?
Maybe it makes more sense then, if that's okay with you, Neil.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah. Just don't want it to get lost.
I'll make a note of it right now.
Thank you. And Commissioner Amana, any questions on the director's report? Maybe.
I guess given the elements, thank you, Chair Green, for hinting what might be, in the input that I have. I was going to ask
Yeah, Commissioner.
Director Calderon, and
What is
just
Sam, your audio is spotty. Can you try one more time to ask your question?
all I can think of is just to echo what Commissioner O'Kelly said to our director, Nicholas Calderon. What potentially we don't know until we get further updates from the governor, San Mateo County Health, other counties, what might be the new norm in these in these parks that we have, especially the ones that we have on discussion.
Thank you. And before I move on, I had just one more question about the director's report on the Tanitas Creek improvement project. It said that there were first draft of project alternatives. Do you recall, does that first draft include ranger housing at the site?
Yeah, Commissioner, Chair, it does not. And when we bring this item to the commission, we'll bring our consultants so we can go into great detail on this, but high level, given the fact that we haven't been able to identify a potable water source, as well as the topography on the property is such that it limits our development potential, we are working to find out how to create enough visitor serving recreational amenities like picnic sites, restrooms, ADA trails, overlooks, all of those. And in doing so, we're really just out of land.
There's a house there now. What about the house?
There is, but that's the prime location for visitor serving amenities given its geographic location overlooking the bluff.
I think they should consider an alternative, at least one that includes ranger housing.
Okay, we will, let me also make note of that. We will.
Just one. We don't have to pick that one, but we should, by the time they come back to us with beautiful designs, and it's going to be, I don't want to then be like, where's the housing? So,
the one thing I will say is if we are not able to identify a potable water source, we will be able to include a residence and satisfy CEQA at the same time.
That's fine. I mean, I understood. I think just like the fact that there is a home there now makes me think that there's water somewhere. But if that is the case, then I will understand that.
Yeah, it's a really long but interesting story. So we'll walk through the commission through it. But for that meeting, we will have to only have Tunitas, and we will encourage everyone to drink coffee beforehand.
Okay, that sounds
A lot
fun.
of detail.
If we can just make sure to get that in earlier, I know how those go, and if we wait, it'll be too late. Thank you. Okay, I believe that is the end of director's report. Thank you all commissioners again. Moving on to item 7, the regular agenda. Item 7.1 is approval of the Parks and Recreation Commission minutes of February 6th, 2020, so long ago. Commissioners, you have the minutes in the packet Lori kindly sent. Do I have a motion to approve?
Can I make a comment before we have a motion?
Oh, okay.
Certainly, yes.
I'd like to, I know the meeting got taped. So I'd already sent a question to Laurie to see whether I can get a copy of the tape. How I can access a copy of that tape because I need to listen to it. You know, because I do think that, you know, the motion that I made regarding you know, the dog off leash dogs and the dog work group's recommendation, I think has been a little bit misstated. And so I really want it to be stated right, you know, and I just want to make sure I listen to the minutes, to the recorded minutes, you know, before I make that determination.
So perhaps if you have not yet received the recording and we won't, so then we wouldn't have the ability to know what amendment we'd be voting on to document, perhaps we should continue the item to the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay, so how do I do that? Can I move to continue this item? Am I allowed to do that?
I move that we continue the.
Thanks.
minutes.
Okay.
Yes, you
Motion
can.
to continue the item from Neil, second from
I'll second that.
Commissioner Okello. Okay, Lori, you want to do roll call? I can do roll call. Commissioner Manna, in favor of continuing or opposed? Sam, can you say aye or nay for continuing the motion? Or are you frozen? Oh, there you go.
Aye.
Aye, okay, and myself, aye. So we will continue with the motion from Commissioner Mirrlees, second from Commissioner Okello, and unanimous to continue. Thank you. Item 7.2, Parks and Rec Commission presentation to the Board of Supervisors, continued from the February 6, 2020 Commission meeting. I know that we talked about this in some detail back in, I think it was December. And Sam, I don't know, I know that as previous chair, the thought was like that you would do the outgoing one and I would do the next one as the newest chair. You know, my understanding of the state of things at the board is that, you know, public meetings are being held for kind of urgent and necessary public business. And though I know it is part of our bylaws to present before the board, I don't know that just an update, a discussion item update would register as urgent business in this time. But have you heard anything different, Sam?
Yeah. In the silver lining of things, and just to kind of put things into perspective, Director Calderon had slotted sometime in March, and I had an agenda of what my year was like and what we got accomplished and what we did and what our meetings were like. That was to be presented in the month of March. But when the county shut down and when the parks were closed and everything was on sort of a holding pattern and things were indefinite, March would have been the time I would have asked for some time and to be given time and presented in one of the March meetings, you know, with in Redwood City Chambers.
Okay. Nicholas, do you have any sense of what can you give some guidance about what it's like at the board? Is there room for such an item on their agenda at this time?
Yeah, thinking back to the last handful of board meetings, so the board meets weekly right now.
Okay.
Every other week is a special meeting that is dedicated specifically for COVID. And then the off weeks are the regularly scheduled board meetings, which by and large are also focused on COVID and the budget. I do not recall seeing any item like this going to the board recently. I do believe most of the items that have been presented to the board are financial based or health based. But I would be more than happy to speak with the county manager to see if this is something that this type of item is something that we're allowing on the agenda at this time, or if they really want to keep it down. You know, our items, our agendas used to be, 30 items or so, and now they're really down to 12, 15. And so they're really trying to limit it.
Okay, so I'm comfortable with that. If you wouldn't mind, please reaching out to the clerk's office, and then since we are pretty far into the year, maybe Sam and I can work on it jointly when we are able to get a slot. And I guess perhaps it would be reasonable, if not in the immediate future, to suggest something in line with that September update, so we could give some context to the letter since they have not heard from us in some time.
Chair Green, could I suggest something else?
Please, thank you.
You are absolutely correct that the County Board of Supervisors are so focused on COVID and its related impacts, whether they're financial or otherwise, that it probably would not make any sense for us to try to push this, onto their agenda. So I would suggest that why don't we just plan on doing it next year? So we prepare ourselves either for March of next year or for a distinct date next year, and work with Nicholas and the county clerk and see if the situation has changed enough for them to be able to accommodate the item in March, then we can do that. But let's spend our time just, sort of preparing for this presentation, next year when there's an additional transitioning. Because I think we've been caught up in the same situation for the last 2 or 3 years, whereby the time really doesn't work well, and it ends up not happening.
Yeah.
We've decided when we've decided to talk about it at the time that the chairpersonship is changing, instead of thinking about it a lot earlier. So that's what I would suggest.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think definitely we'll work with Nicholas to find the right date. That sounds good. Thank you. Any further discussion on this item? No, I see no. Okay.
Yeah, I really think that I want to chime in here. I really think that what I want to say is I think we've missed out on a lot. Not that it's our own fault, not that it's the county's fault. I want to commend all the county leaders and the park director and the elected officials for acting so quickly. Nevertheless, and I'm not trying to be selfish or trying to be, individualistic, but I think we have missed out on a lot. And I think, this just kind of put us in a setback, how we're, trying to grow some nice things in our backyard, and like a massive storm just kind of ruined all the fruits that we had grown or we had anticipated. But I think, Heather, if you and I can somehow meet before now and I would say between the months of July and August, to maybe, are you up to something if we can get clearance to present? I'm not even sure if we're on going to be in the phase number 4, but would it make sense to help put things together, or would you want to wait till the end of the year and just kind of build all your ducks in a row and you present? You tell me.
I think let's get direction from Nicholas about what's feasible on the calendar, and then we can take it from
Thank
there.
you.
That sounds
Thank you very much.
okay. Great. Thank you, guys. All right. Item 7.3, accept the department's update regarding operations during the COVID-19 pandemic. And can I just get clarification? Is this an action item? Like we are taking action to accept?
Yeah, actually.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Yeah. So this is, and this really is to make sure that the commission is aware of what is occurring as a department. As we are all well aware of, we are in unprecedented times right now, dealing with a global pandemic that is spread the way COVID is, has presented a lot of different challenges for park agencies, while also at the same time, park agencies have been highlighted as a safe place to go when nowhere else is open. I want to, before kind of diving into the history of what happened and where we are now, would like to call attention to the way that the Rangers have responded to this crisis. We are seeing unprecedented numbers throughout our system, and we are seeing in some places like San Bruno Mountain and Junipero Serra Park, we're seeing over 100% increase year over year in visitors. And we're seeing huge numbers on the Bay Trail and Crystal Springs. And the Rangers are doing such a phenomenal job at keeping the facilities safe, keeping them clean, being engaged, safely engaging with the public, making sure people have their masks, they're aware of the rules. This has been a monumental task for them. They've really risen to the occasion and deserve to be recognized for that. But from a background perspective, so in March, when COVID-19 was declared a global pandemic, there were a lot of efforts to start shutting down parts of society. And we got to the point where the only places that people were really allowed to go were parks. And so we had this weekend. And so gearing into that, we started to close some of our facilities. We started to increase the frequency in which we were cleaning. But our goal at that time was to minimize the congregation of people and minimize how much engagement people have with high touch surfaces. And during the weekend of March 20th, 21st, 22nd, we and every other park agency in the Bay Area just saw a steep increase in users. And at that point, people had been sheltered inside for some weeks, and people were really eager to get outside. And we came to the conclusion after that weekend that we weren't comfortable that we could provide a safe experience for people. March 27th, we closed in consultation with the county manager, closed the park system, and we were closed for about a month. In order to reopen, we developed a reopening plan, which has been provided to each of you. And what it does is it promotes the use of our trails. And so, pursuant to the health order, playgrounds, picnic sites, reservation sites, exercise stations, those are all closed, and we have to close those. But what we can do is provide safe trail access to the public, and that's what we're doing right now. So we have 13 of our parks open. On Monday, 2 more parks will be open, and that's Flood Park and Devil Slide. So on Monday, Devil Slide and its parking lots and restrooms will be open. And we will continue to expand access to our trails. We're going to continue to hold on this idea that the safest place we can provide access to people are our trails. And trails keep people moving. They keep people separated. People not really touching anything when you're on trails. And so we're able to provide a safe place for people to go to. With this new phase that we're entering into on Monday, we're also going to see the opening of some field space. So Flood Park, which has open grassy field, Coyote Point will open on the 15th, and Point has open grassy fields. Huddart has open grassy fields, And we're really starting to explore how to allow people to have access to those open grassy fields as a family unit, but not allowing the congregation of large groups. So, you know, the balance for us is going to be, how do we allow a mother and a father and their children to sit on the grass and enjoy the outdoors? But how do we prevent people from pulling up with barbecues and having 25 people barbecuing together? And that is how we are handling this. That's how we're approaching the situation. I think we're in a really good spot because by promoting trails and keeping people on trails, we're eliminating the ability for what we're seeing at state parks to happen on their state beaches, right? Where you have a lot of people in close proximity to one another. We're not having that issue right now. The public's being very well behaved. They're bringing their masks. We're requiring people to bring masks with them. You don't have to wear them, but you have to bring them with you. And when I've been out at the parks, by and large, people are wearing them. And cyclists, I see cyclists wearing the masks. I see runners wearing the masks. People are being really good about it. The public also deserves credit for the way they're handling the situation. We closed our parks. When we reopened, they were ready to come back in the most responsible way possible, and they deserve credit for that. And that's why we're comfortable moving to this phase 2. So on Monday, we will open Flood Park, Devil Slide. We're going to open some more restroom facilities, some new parking facilities. And then 1 week later, on the 15th, Coyote Point will be open. In connection with that, when Coyote Point opens, we will also reestablish bicycle access at Crystal Springs Trail. So this has been a very contentious issue where we have not had bicycles on Crystal Springs Trail during our first phase of reopening. And that's because we knew the numbers we were going to see at first were going to be so high that it wasn't going to be safe to have cyclists going through that trail at high speeds. We're working with community organizations to get a lot of communication out about proper and safe trail use. And we're confident that when we open Crystal Trail to all people, we're going to have proper use, etiquette, and people are going to be respectful of one another. We are moving closer to whatever the new normal is. We don't necessarily know what that is, but our goal is to make our trails accessible to the public so people have a safe place to go to be both healthy, mentally and physically healthy. And we've really taken some great strides to do that. So that's where we are right now. So Commissioner Merrilees, I know you were asking about also Fitzgerald Marine Reserve. At this time, the Dardanelle Trail, which is the coastal trail through Fitzgerald Marine Reserve, the trails on the bluff are open. The ramp and the staircase down to the tide pools are in fact closed, and we are holding very firm on that. I had a conversation with a neighbor earlier today, and I was explaining that during our closure and even now, we still see people hopping those fences, climbing around those fences. And what people need to be aware of is us preventing people from going to the beach because we don't want them to lay out in a beach chair and have an umbrella. We have Harbor Seal pups that are using that to fall out on. And there are potential serious ramifications if people start flooding that beach and startling and stressing the Harbor Seal pups. And that's something that we really need to avoid. So that's why we're not allowing people down there. And, you know, when I had this conversation with the neighbor earlier, once I explained it in that light, they were on board. They understood, and they were really supportive of the decision. So for us, it's all about making sure we're getting out there and educating people when we can. Other than that, right now, like I said, trails in 13 parks are open, and all of our parks are getting used with record numbers. So it's great to see. So that's where we are with our operations. We're excited to transition into phase 2 on Monday. And also on the 15th, with the reopening of Coyote Point, we'll also be opening the Coyote Point Marina, which means people will be able to take their boats and launch them from the launch ramp for recreational fishing. So really making great strides to reestablishing access to all of our parks and reestablishing some variation of normal. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, fellow commissioners. Any comments or questions?
Yeah, through the chair, this is an extremely wonderful report. Uh, uh, you know, I like what you're doing. I like how you're phasing, you know, the openings, you know, of the various parks. So I assume that all parks are going to be going on to phase two, you know, because I've been to Wonderland Park, yeah, and I noticed that the bathrooms were not open. And so, you know, and I've not gone back because, you know, primarily for that reason. But I usually take very long walks and so on and so forth. But I'm glad we do have this report, and should people ask us any questions, we're going to be in a position, you know, not only to answer them intelligently, but you know, to certainly explain to them. I got a question, and this is purely my ignorance. Because I really looked at the District 2 primarily. What's an Iron Ranger? The Herbert Park Gatehouse, what's an Iron Ranger?
Through the chair, Commissioner Okello, an Iron Ranger is a way that someone would pay their vehicle entrance fee via an envelope. So you'd open it, pull an envelope out, and you'd pay that way. But we want to limit money transactions, so we're allowing people to do that. But yeah.
And so in phase 2 at Wonder Lake, for instance, is street parking going to be allowed? Because Wonder Lake does not have really enough parking given the volume of traffic that it gets. So a lot of people, including myself, have never gotten an opportunity to park inside. They end up parking on the street and walking in. So in phase 2, in subsequent phases, are street parking going to be allowed?
Yeah, in phase 2, we're still trying to discourage roadside parking on Highway 84. It's really, we know that Wonder Lake doesn't have a large parking lot, and we're working to actually create new parking opportunities on site. The challenge with Highway 84 is you have a very small shoulder, you have a third bicycle route, and you have a road route that people like to speed on. And so all those three things happening, we really are trying to discourage roadside parking at Wonder Lake. But we are opening more parking at Huddart. We are opening additional restrooms throughout the park system, and additional parks as well.
Okay, wonderful report. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Miralles, did you have any follow-up questions on your original question or other comment?
Yeah, I had some questions for Nicholas. First of all, the park's closed sign is at the entrance, the Seal Cove entrance to the bluff part of the park. So it makes it look like the bluff walking is not open. Is that the case? Is it open or is it not open?
The bluff walking is open.
Okay.
I believe that sign is a reflection of the closure to the tide pools via the Seal Cove staircase.
Okay.
Reposition that sign.
Let's reposition that sign, yeah. And then also there are a bunch of no parking sandwich signs all over the public streets around that entrance. There are also a bunch of no parking signs that I think are still up in Montera. When the parking lots were closed at the beach, people were parking in the neighborhoods, and I guess it was Public Works that put up those signs, or was it the Parks Department that put up the signs? I'm not sure. But there's an unintended consequence of putting up those signs that's really negative. I'd like to get those no parking signs down as quickly as possible. And the reason is because even before COVID, there's always a lot of anti-visitor sentiment around from people that live around parks. You know, they would rather that the visitors just don't come because the parks are much nicer when they're emptier. And same goes with the beach. And since those signs have gone up and since the 5-mile rule was instituted, people have used that as an excuse to call the rangers and call the sheriffs on visitors coming to the neighborhoods who are just walking around, not hurting anybody. You know, we're privileged down here because we live next to these parks and next to the ocean. And you know, really the parks and the ocean belong to the public in general, not just the people that live here. So as soon as we could let people who are living in apartments and living in places that don't have the amenities that we have here. As soon as we could let those people know that it's safe to come here and recreate and just walk around and look at the ocean, even if they can't go down to Seal Cove, that would help. I don't know how we're going to get rid of all the handmade no visitor signs that people are putting up everywhere on the coast side. You know, they have always come up in Princeton Harbor, and the county went through and made people take them down. But yeah, people get no parking signs from the hardware store, and you know, signs threatening to tow people, and put them up on public land. So that's an issue. And in the spirit of equal access to the parks, as soon as we could get a more welcoming tone, you know, make sure that people are wearing masks, make sure that people aren't congregating, you know, together too much, or if they are, they're in families. I think let the neighbors know that let the neighbors know, and let the rangers know that the parks are open to the public at large rather than just the neighbors.
Yeah, and through the chair, Commissioner Mary Louise, we will follow up on the no parking signs in the community, and we'll also follow up on the A-frame sign at Seal Cove. But you know, the message we've been giving is that county parks belong to county residents, regardless of where you live. With that said, we are obligated to follow the health order that is in effect at the time. So when there was a 5-mile and a 10-mile radius, you know, we were obligated to follow that. But even during our closure, we were very soft in our enforcement. And you will see, you know, when you look at our visitor numbers, we still had numbers during, we still had people coming into our parks during that time, and we didn't write citations. We didn't run people out. We educated people, and we sought to get voluntary compliance. And we, you know, we know that people were still looking to our parks to get that assistance, that health break they needed. And we were very responsible in how we enforced that. And I think that sentiment was felt by a lot of people who came to our parks. But I hear what you're saying loud and clear, and I've heard from a lot of the neighbors, especially in that area. But you know, the message is and always will be that county parks belong to county residents.
Thank you, Nicholas. And yeah, I wouldn't mind in the future, on a future agenda, having a discussion about this, and what we can do to kind of make that point to neighbors and to people all over the county, that if you're lucky enough to live next to a county park, be prepared to share it with people that aren't lucky enough to live next to a county park.
If I could speak through the chair to resonate what Nicholas has said also. Neil, I've been out there for the last 4.5 weeks with staff in the field almost every day. And we have been professional. We have been compassionate to the needs of people with mental wellness to be able to get out. I think we've done an extraordinary job. And I have to agree with Nicholas. You know, we have a couple other things pending here, the health officer and stuff, and we've done an exceptional job in embracing people and giving them the opportunity to our county parks. It's been trying since other agencies have not been open. We have been overwhelmed at times, but we have stayed professional and embraced everybody coming to the park system. So I think we did an exceptional job with staff and management, and maybe we just have to get better messaging out, but we're trying. I mean, we're doing face-to-face. I probably said hello and have a good day to probably 15,000 to 17,000 people in the last 4.5 weeks for the department and for the county. And it's been embraced by the public. So we tried hard. We tried really hard.
I just want to say this is not any criticism of the Rangers. The Rangers are absolutely, you know, top-notch, professional, and have everybody's best interests at heart. It's really just to let everybody know that there was kind of a weaponization of this 5-mile limit. And it's going to be hard. There's going to be a residue from that. It's going to be hard to get people back into welcoming, the aloha spirit of letting people come and sharing. That the thing you learn in kindergarten is that you share things. Although kids that are going back to school now, little kids are not allowed to share things. And I wonder how that's going to affect their psyche growing up. And that's what's happening on the coast right now. This is going to be a little bit of a scar. And people are going to say, well, we can't allow the foreigners to come in here and give us this disease, as if it's coming from over the hill. And I just wanted you guys to know about that. And everybody was super professional. I had a couple of bad experiences where I watched people of color come and park on the street and the sheriff come and tell them to leave. And in my neighborhood, which is mostly white, the residents, of course, were allowed to walk around and go into the parks and bluffs. And I saw these people being told to leave by the sheriff, and it was very politely, but I just thought, there's something here that's not quite right. And next time, if we do have another, if we do have to close again more strictly, then yeah, if we're just all aware of this and the appearance of this, and moving forward, I don't know exactly what the right solution is other than to let people know politely that, people are welcome.
Thank you. Did we lose Commissioner Amana? Oh no, still on. Sam, do you have any comments on this item?
I mean, just to echo what Commissioner Merrill said, and just hopefully, we see things, that maybe it all pans out, and things get better. I mean, that's really all I'll have to say on that.
Thank you. So before we move on, I guess I just want to make a suggestion, perhaps. I don't know if this is exactly the right place for that to land, but I know we were talking about the interpretive plan. We're explaining the park's history and so on. That's a communications document. I don't know if making welcoming, making it clear who's welcome, being everyone in the parks could be an appropriate part of that. Would just be food for thought. But I agree. I think it would be nice to have a dedicated, because it should be part of our strategy in terms of turning out people to the parks if we want. I know in COVID-19 we have limitations on crowds and so on, but ultimately we do want people to want to use the parks. So that seems like a reasonable part of our strategic thinking.
Mm-hmm. Through the chair, can I make additional comments?
Sure.
Is there, I'm particularly disturbed by the observation that Neil just shared with us about, non-residents in the neighborhood being whisked away politely, by the sheriff's department. Is there any way we could have a talk with the sheriff's department, a frank discussion with them, and just, emphasize the fact that, these are public parks. One, two, and being public parks, they're open to anybody. From the county and even from outside, because that we have nobody standing somewhere asking you for an ID to determine whether you live in the county or not. But these are public parks, and anything that the sheriffs could do to help facilitate the utilization of those parks, I think that's something that I think we do need to talk to them about. And I was at a George Floyd, protest yesterday, and I was amazed at, level of unity between various members of the community, but at the same time, the level of anger. People want to vent, people want to release, and they were releasing it by screaming loud and shouting and doing all of that stuff, and it sort of reminded me that, we do have a resource that can help people deal with that frustration and anger. You know, they can come to our parks and walk amongst the trees and feel calm, you know, and feel, feel sort of healed, and and get an opportunity to recommune with nature. So anything that would provide an obstacle for them to be able to do that, if it's a sheriff or even if it is the neighborhood, we need to figure out things proactively that we can do to sort of prevent that. And I would also suggest, in addition to having some discussion with the sheriff, I would also suggest that perhaps people that live in proximity to public parks, if the number is not too overwhelming, we can send them letters and just thank them for having been welcoming in the past and encourage them to continue, to be welcoming, and just remind them as politely as we can that these are public parks, and as a result of that, they belong to everybody in the county, and everybody should be able to utilize them with ease. Thank you.
I like that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioner Green, can I say something?
Sure.
And initially, it really wasn't going to say much, and all I was kind of agreeing with Commissioner Meredith was saying, but what Commissioner Okello just said, as a person of multi-ethnicity myself, in a lot of jobs, whether you are working for the school district, whether you work in the airport, whether you work in public safety, there should be some form of sensitivity training, culture training. So if someone is parking and they're a person of color, how would the deputies or how would the people of law enforcement, they wouldn't necessarily know if that person is of a great of an income, or if they went to a great school, or they're with their kids and they're not scholars and things like that. So someone should reach out to the sheriff and say, hey, I hope that you give sensitivity to, and I only mention this in the light of things where we are and what took place a week ago and where we will be a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Sheriff deputies, people of public safety, law enforcement need to kind of understand to gauge this, more sensitive and stop being discriminatory and say, you're more than welcome to use this or whatever the restrictions are. I'm sorry you can't park here. It's all delivery. It's about their delivery. If they just simply say, I'm sorry you can't park here, or sorry it's closed off, I'm sure the families would be more than understanding and saying, okay. And that goes both sides and all nationalities.
Heather, you're muted.
I am muted.
There you go.
Thank you. Okay, thank you all, commissioners. Do we have public comment on this item? And reminder to use the raise hand function in the participants menu if you'd like to give comment. We'll give everyone a few seconds to find that. I do not see any. Lori, are you seeing anyone raise their hand?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. So I will ask for a motion to accept the department's update regarding operations during COVID-19.
I move we accept the update.
Second?
Second.
Second.
I think Commissioner Okello beat you to it. So we will do a roll call on the remaining two of us. Sam, Commissioner Manna, how do you vote?
Yes.
Aye. And
Aye.
Chair Green, aye as well.
Thank you.
Unanimous. Okay, thank you. Agenda item 7.4, make a recommendation to the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors to amend the San Mateo County Parks Department fee schedule by eliminating the vehicle entrance fee at Flood County Park. This is also an action item. We'll take public comments at the close of commissioner discussion. Nicholas, yeah?
Yes. Give me 1 second here. I'm sorry.
No pressure.
Okay. Um, so, uh, so the department, the county as a whole, under Supervisor Warren Slocum, who's the president of the board, under his leadership, has asked that the county evaluate how we can be more equitable in our access. And um, and as part of that effort, he has formed an equity commission. But prior to that even occurring, one of the things that the department was asked was to evaluate what are barriers to access. And what we have heard is that a barrier to access are the vehicle entrance fees. And so we have commissioned CHM Government Services, who does a lot of financial analysis for the department, to commission we've commissioned them to do a entrance fee analysis, which is going to show us what are the financial impacts if we were to eliminate, amend, lower, change, revise our fee schedule on vehicle entrance fees. What are the financial impacts? How do we recuperate any lost revenue from doing so? And what are some strategies that we should consider when moving forward with that? We are in the middle of doing that study, but prior to having to wait to do that, the department feels that at this time, it's important that we proceed with eliminating the vehicle entrance fees at Flood Park for a couple reasons. One of which is that Flood Park is really a municipal park, so it serves like a city park, which is unique for our system, and it is also a it's also a park that, well, I'm sorry, it is the only park in the southern part of San Mateo County of that sort that charges an entrance. So if you talk to people from Menlo Park, East Palo Alto, Redwood City, they're going to tell you that they go to their local city park and it's free of charge. They walk right in. They drive up, they park, they walk right in. Flood Park's the only one that that charges for that. The other thing is what we know is Menlo Park, North Fair Oaks, East Palo Alto, they all have a deficit in local access to green space, meaning there are not enough parks and green space for those communities. And so for us to know that and still have a barrier to access being entrance fees is not in line with our overall effort to eliminate barriers to access and to serve our public more equitable. So the department wanted to bring this item to the commission because as we are opening Flood on Monday for walk-in and bicycle access, eventually Flood's going to be open to vehicular access. And when we do that, we would like to make sure that anyone who wants to go to Flood is able to go to Flood, and no person and no family should be deterred from going to Flood because they are not able to pay the $6 entrance fee, or because they have other financial obligations that deter them from having that experience. It's just not in line with what we're trying to do as an organization and as a department. And so for that reason, we would recommend to the commission that the commission makes a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors to eliminate the vehicle entrance fee at Flood Park overall. And I know some of the questions that have come up about this in the past are financial. And so we estimate that we are going to see about a $90,000 reduction in revenue from this decision. However, when the new Flood Park project is completed and we have other amenities there and programming then we think we will be able to offset that lost revenue. But regardless of if we are or not, this is one of those things that comes down to it's the right thing to do, and it's the right way for us to serve our residents. And that's why we're asking the commission to make that recommendation to the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you. Commissioners, are there any questions or comments on this item?
I have a comment. If
Please.
I could vote twice, I'd vote twice. Thanks for being on this, Nicholas. This is the right thing to do, and let's try it. Maybe we can even do it in some other parks if it works out.
Through the chair, I do have some comments as well. You know, I'm surprised that I'm torn on this one. I'm totally in support of increasing access to everybody. And, you know, but I have a few questions. One of it you just answered. So the vehicle entrance fee is $6. The other one is how many parking spaces in the park? And then two, of the 114,200 visitors that is mentioned in the report, has there been a breakdown? Is there some sort of breakdown to see who those people are, and whether that breakdown tells us that that there are some people that have been precluded from utilizing the park?
Yeah, I think that starting with the breakdown of who those 114,000 are, we would be able to break that down from a perspective of an estimate of who came for a reservation because they were using a picnic site for a party versus who was just coming to use the park. We could most certainly break it down that way. But the department doesn't track visitors' financial resources and who of those people, who of the 114,000 overall, who of them is either unable to pay or reluctant to pay. That's just not something that we track. So when we look at the universe, right, those 114,000, we could track that down, break that down to who's there for a special event versus a picnic versus just there to play. But we wouldn't be able to break that down further, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And through the chair again, and so there's a possibility that 114,200 folks are people that can pay. So, reducing or eliminating the fee may not have an impact because, the overwhelming majority of people that attend that park are still going to attend the park regardless. And if they do, then, given the limitations of the park in terms of how many parking spaces there are within the park at any one time, this may not necessarily give us help us attain the objective that we want. But I'm supportive. I'm just asking those additional questions for my own personal clarification. So I would love to get that data. I'd like to get that data. And, I'll talk with the constituent, at least East Palo Alto and Bellhaven, and get a sense, for me as to whether, first of all, they use flood park, whether how much that $6 is a hindrance.
I appreciate that. And I think that as we, one of the things I can tell you is we could also break down for the population that is there for reservations. We could break that down via zip code, right? But that's still only a portion of the overall population coming to the park.
That'll be good. Thank you.
Plus, that information would be limited in what it tells us. But I think further engaging with the public is something that would be helpful. The other thing I'd say is that's the type of information that will help us in our 5-year interpretive plan, right? As we engage with the public, we want to understand how to best communicate with the public, offer programs that they want to participate in, but also understand what are some of the barriers to their access. And we know some through the visitor use, non-use study, which identified entrance fees as a barrier, but through the 5-year plan, we could do more. We could do more research.
Good.
Thank you. I have a question related to what Commissioner Okello raised. Is this elimination of the fee as it's structured to the board permanent? Are we testing it?
The department's proposal would be for a flat waiver. So just do away with the vehicle entrance fee and not do it in a piloted way. That's what we were originally thinking. And that's what we've heard from some supervisors is their desire.
Okay. Commissioner Manna, any questions or comments on this? Unmute you. Oh, I can't unmute you. Sam, are you on mute? Do you have anything you want to say? Here, Sam. Sam, you're on mute. Unmute yourself. You're still on mute. Lori, can you unmute him? Help him.
It's not, oh
Yeah.
God, it's not letting me.
Hmm.
Janice or,
Yeah, I tried to unmute him already. It looks like he can talk, but it's not.
yeah,
It might just be his.
Sam, can you try one more time with your comments? We cannot hear you. Oh, video went away. Give it a second. The joys of telemeeting. Everyone's had this happen to them at this point, right? All right. I think
Yes.
we'll.
let me see if ISD's on, so let me see if they can.
It's okay. Yeah, okay, let's just take a second, I guess. Sam, I can see you and I can see your lips are moving, but I cannot hear what you're saying.
Oh, it says ISD said he is unmuted. So there must be something on his end. Okay. I don't even, does he have his, he doesn't have his camera on now, right? Or
He does now again.
okay, I see that.
I can see you.
There he
see
is.
you talking, but I still can't hear you.
He moved around. It might be his computer. And I also know that the board of supervisors had a problem with the muting and unmuting the last hearing. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it.
So let's just give a second. Sam, can you hear me? Can you do thumbs up if you can hear me? Okay. How about if you try leaving the meeting and rejoining, and we'll just pause for 20 seconds while you do that. All right, so he's left. Let's see if he can come back.
And Sam, you can just click the same link.
He's gone now. Let's see. In some ways, tele-life is better. In some ways, it is not.
Okay, did he come back? He's back in as an attendee. Let me put him, he's now promoted to panelist.
Wonderful. And now
we're gonna get there.
Yeah. All right. I still see a mute. Now off mute. Sam, can you try talking again? How bizarre. Still no. Okay, well, I think we still have 3 commissioners, who, so we have a quorum, so we're able to take a vote.
Yes.
Sam, though, if you have, I know that you clearly had something to say, so perhaps you could, if you want them to be a part of the record of this item, please send a written synopsis to Lori.
Yeah.
And she can incorporate that into the record of the meeting.
I will do that.
Craig, I've got a question for you. If Sam is able to access his video, can he vote by thumbs up?
You know, I'm not sure that This has been, I think if we can do it, I don't think there would be any question that he is voting. Count that.
Okay, or thumbs down, Sam, however you want to vote. Sam,
Aside would be abstain.
that sounds fine. So Sam, are you able to turn on your video?
You could also ask for public comments and see if he's able to join in the meantime.
Okay, yeah, that sounds, so yes, let's definitely do that. Okay, so your video wasn't working, that's good. Let's take public comments on this item. Again, if you want to give public comment, please use the raise hand function in the participants menu. We'll give folks a
Okay,
minute.
and I will read a statement. We are now opening public comments for item number 7.4. If your hand is raised, your name will be called for this item. I will lower your hand after you speak. We've got Alice Newton, who would like to speak. Okay. You can go ahead and unmute your microphone now, Alice.
Okay, well, I hope this will work.
We can hear you.
Oh, good. Well, I wrote you all an email. Right now, I'd just like to say that I have lived here, like I said, 33 years adjacent to the park. And I think it's wonderful, Nicholas, that you're going to open the trails for walking. My hope really is that it will be open for vehicles without the fee. I think that's fabulous too. That's very, very important. But for vehicles to be able to park in the parking lot as soon as possible, so that people who don't live near enough to walk into the park, but who want to come and take a walk and have to drive there can come and do that without having, can just come and do that, drive in and take a walk. I think the other thing to say about that is if vehicles are not allowed into the park, but the trails are open, we actually, with all due respect to what the discussion said earlier about people from other neighborhoods parking along the streets adjacent to the park, this can be a problem here. We have experienced in the past when there were so many cars that we didn't have room for our own guests to park. And sometimes people speed on the streets. We have a lot of children in the neighborhoods on both sides of Flood Park. For safety reasons and accessibility reasons, my hope is that vehicles will be able to park in the park as soon as possible. And I think it's wonderful that you're going to eliminate the fee. That will enable many more people to come and enjoy Flood Park. That's it, I think.
Thank you. Any other raised hands?
Let me check. Let's see. No, that's it, actually.
Okay, thank you. So before I call for a motion on this item, I guess my comment would be understanding that the desire is to eliminate the fee, wholesale without a pilot period, and not being opposed to the elimination of the fee in the hopes that it will create, greater accessibility at this site. It is, if it's 114,000, I don't know if that was visitors or cars. Oh, you said it was a $90,000 hit, right? So that's visitors. Anyway, point being, I think it would be nice to do a pre and post to understand visitors. It's awkward times, right? So visitor numbers are not really year over year reliable at this point. But I also think it's important to understand who's going to the parks. We cannot measure or improve. We can't improve what we don't measure. And if we just continue to shrug our shoulders to say, we don't know if people of less means are using our parks or not, then we will never be able to make progress towards betterment there. So I hope that the department can think, obviously resources are strained at this time. It's difficult to find money for everything. We're foregoing $90,000 by taking this on. But I do think that kind of measurement is important so that we can get better. So I think no matter where we are, we would want to be better. And with that, call for a motion.
I move we approve the motion.
Do I have a second?
Before we take a motion, can I make a quick statement?
I saw a motion second from Sam, but you are welcome to make a statement before we vote.
Yes.
Great.
I think, and I'm glad Michelle Beasley is still on, and Sam Monet, I think you're our liaison to the Parks Foundation. Is there a way we could fund a simple survey? We can survey Fair Oaks, the Bellhaven community in Menlo Park, and certainly East Palo Alto, and really just find out the extent of their usage of Flood Park in the last so many years, so we can gather the data that can sort of inform us, as to the rightness of the decision that that we are making. And for instance, if we find out that a lot of them have not utilized the park, either for picnic and all of those activities and so on and so forth, that will clearly tell us, the 114,000 are probably a part of a whole nother population. I'm going to support this motion anyway, but is there some additional work that we can do that would sort of help us?
And I think that's something that might be really helpful during our interpretive program, or I'm sorry, our 5-year interpretive plan.
Good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so there was a motion on the floor. Lori, do you want to do the roll call vote for that?
Yes, and we had the second from Sam
Yes.
Anna, and okay,
And is that
Commissioner Okello, what is your
Yes.
vote? Yes.
Yes.
And Commissioner Green?
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Agenda item 8 is commissioners' reports, which I will go first, and then if anyone else has, please let me know. So one of the work streams that I've been responsible for is just the work plan itself, which is not the discussion here, but I'm just referring to that when I look at reports ahead. I think it would be, since we missed a meeting in April, there are some items that I think have slipped. And so we can discuss this in the items for future agenda. But I guess my report is that I'm continuing to refer back to the work plan that we looked at. I believe it was in February. I think it was December or February no, February is the dog management meeting, right? So this would have been from December. And just continuing to use that to make sure that nothing is completely falling through the cracks, and look forward to catching up on some of these items. But I think most of what I have to do there pertains to agenda item 9. So I will cut myself off there.
Through the chair.
Sure.
I think we'd also agreed that we would have a copy of that work plan in all of our packets moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I think back in December, I think there were sort of versions of it, different versions of it. So we wanted to have one single version that we'd have at our meeting, all of our meetings, so we can easily reference it. I know I volunteered to be the liaison for the youth commission, and so this is a question to Neil. I've been trying to find who the contact is, and get a sense as to who I need to connect with, and so on and so forth. So I've not been able to do that, at least online. And so if anybody that can provide me with some assistance as how to connect with someone, I'd be most appreciative.
Yeah, I don't know. My connection is no longer there. So yeah, I don't have that connection. I could try and help you find it though.
Commissioner Rana, I'll talk with the county manager's office and see who the current liaison is, and let you know.
That'll be helpful.
Mm-hmm, sure.
Commissioner Manna, let me see. How's the sound, Sam? Try it. No dice. No, you don't get to report this meeting. I'm sorry. Next meeting. Commissioner Mariles.
Really, all I have to say is that, yeah, I've been sheltering in place here and have been realizing how important it is at a certain point to get out, and that people have been sneaking past the 5-mile radius to go to parks means that parks are very important to other people too, which is good. So, yeah, I just wanted to reemphasize the importance of getting out and recreating, and we'll just deal with this weird situation and try and make the best of it, and try and present opportunities for people to use parks safely.
Thank you. All right, moving to agenda item 9, items for future agenda. So Nicholas, perhaps I can ask you, there are a couple of things that have already come up this meeting. So perhaps can you
Yeah.
what you've heard, and then I'll.
Yeah, absolutely. So one item is going to be a letter to the board requesting that the Parks Department no longer use California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation crews for fuel reduction. I'd also like to, Commissioner Green, you've asked for a presentation on the department's strategic priorities. And that I'd like to do that in August as well, which will also hopefully give us a better sense of the budget. Right now, between COVID and the budget, it's pretty hard to foresee, plan any of those. But I'd like to do that in August. And then I'd also like to ask if the commissioners, Craig, if I'm not allowed to do this, let me know. But I'd also like to ask the commissioners if they would be interested in having a special meeting in September dedicated to Tunitas Creek Beach. Given the complexity of the issue and the timing, I feel like a special meeting in September would not only allow us to best give the information to the commissioners, but also work really well within our timing for the overall project. And Craig's not shaking his head no, so I assume that means I'm allowed to do this.
Are you? I mean, I wouldn't take a vote on it, but
Noted. We are not voting.
I mean, I think the point is, well, you have one option is that in August you could actually ask at the August meeting, you could ask the board to actually take action, or the chair of the